Jody Williams.
Mr. Ryan SB, how we doing?
Hanging in there, buddy. Hanging in there.
Good. A little sore, but I'm here.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. I mean, of course, before we get there, make sure you guys hit like and subscribe as you're coming in. Mr.
Yes,
Ward
please.
Drake is already in the house. It must be raining where he is because he's a farmer and he's planting stuff. But if it's raining, that means if he's on here, that means it's raining and he's got the day off. Little event last weekend, Jody.
Yes, sir. The second annual LLD Foundation tournament that my wife and I put on for our son. Everybody knows the whole story about that. And this time it was a little different because last year we were at a park, 85-degree weather, and it was like the day before Father's Day. This time we decided to bump up the date and make sure it was indoors. And thank God, because I woke up Saturday morning, and it was just downpouring. And I looked at my wife and I said, babe, I'm so glad that we chose to have the ballroom instead of outside in the park this year. So that was good. Not as many entries, and it could be due to the fact that the gas prices are, skyrocketing, but there's a lot of entries though. For the people that did show up, they were pulling multiple classes. So that was also a bonus. It was very hot in there, and the tournament went longer than I expected. Now, granted, we had 2 tables, right? Now, here's the difference between last year and this year. Last year, we had 2 tables going at the same time, which meant you got 4 refs. Denise Waddle's in charge of the brackets. No big deal. Problem is, she couldn't make the trip this year. So my wife had to do the brackets, which she's not real familiar with. She did it one time, but that was about it. So Leonard helped her out with the brackets, which meant me and Mark Owen did the tables. And so it was just kind of one table at a time. So it kind of stretched the event out longer than it probably should have had we had Denise just go through the brackets and had we had both tables going simultaneously. So in that, it was good. But let's get down to what everybody wants to talk about. Let's talk about my match with Robbie Topi. And after I talk about this, I want your opinion and everyone's opinion in the chat. Prior to this, people thought I'd lost my mind. They thought I'd bit off more than I can chew. And I probably did. But I know that I want to challenge myself. And I felt like, you know what? Do I think I have a shot? Anything can happen. The one thing I will say is that there was no way for me I was ever going to have a chance with him in a strap. It went there. He probably knew it. So I had a slight, very slight chance out of the straps because I can climb on his fingers. And then, once I got a grab, I didn't grab hard enough. And he was able to kind of slip out. And I was like, if anybody watched the matches on match number 3, I kind of stomped on the stage because I knew that was my only chance of getting that victory. But again, strong, very, very strong guy. It almost seemed like he just kind of in the strap just kind of took me here. Okay, I'll let you work. And nothing I can do. I tried to, jump into a press. I tried to, bust it out. It just wasn't going to happen. So props to Robbie Topi. Awesome guy, husband, father. His family came down to support our cause, and they were great friends with their family too. So it was awesome. But Ryan SB, I have a question for you, and I want your opinions on this. The reason why I brought this up is because I was watching a clip that Uncle John had with Chance Shaw, and how the Chance Shaw Jerry Caderet saga, right? And one of the comments in that clip was the fact that one guy, which I kind of agree, you always want to pull somebody above you. You want to shoot for the top, which is why I was trying to shoot for Robbie. I don't belong in the supers by any means. I need to stay in just the regular heavyweights. But it's a double-edged sword with that because it takes the upper guy to say yes, right? Because Robbie could have said no. He could have said, hey, man, right now I'm on the skyrocket. I got momentum going behind me. I'd love to pull you, but maybe next year because right now I don't think you're quite there. He could have actually told me that. And I would have been, okay, I get that, But it takes the guy above to say yes to the guy below. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword because that guy up above is like, well, no, you're not in my league. I need to go up top. So it always takes the higher guy, ranking-wise or, strength-wise, whatever, to say yes to the guy that's below him. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's a good point. I think that the higher guy, perception-wise, higher guy saying yes. The guy that's coming up needs to remember that at some point, that guy that was ranked so far ahead of him said yes.
Yeah.
So, especially in the case of, Chance Shaw, Derek Smith, those guys, they want those matches. They're calling out guys, they're having debates back and forth against these really extremely highly ranked guys. At some point, they are going to need to let go of this mentality that they're only pulling up and let other people get little shots at them along the way. Because as big of a gap as we can perceive between Chance and Jerry, and it might not be that much, there are plenty of guys that would be just behind Chance that in order to fill the spaces between matches, he may need to give a few of those guys a shot instead of always trying to pull upwards. And that's
Right.
kind of the beauty of it all. If all of us only pulled up, we'd be in one giant pyramid scheme where the guy at the bottom always gets screwed,
Right. And that's the thing. And so I've had stuff I've had people tell me in the past on some of the matches I've taken, and they're like, dude, you're a lot better puller. Why are you pulling this guy? I'm thinking, first of all, I like to compete. That's just who I am. But it's like, you know what? I mean, why not? I mean, he's trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do. He's trying to move up. So if I'm ahead of him, or he thinks, I might be a stepping stone or whatever the case may be, for him, I might be that guy where I'm doing the exact same thing, only I'm going let's above me. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. Like the guy that's challenge, like let's use Chance and Jerry because they're the most current version of this.
Right.
A lot of people will say Chance isn't in his league. I disagree. I think Chance is definitely in Jerry's league. Can he beat him? I don't know. Jerry would be the heavy favorite. Dogs. And Jerry would be the heavy favorite. And, you could criticize both ways. And both guys will get hate and criticism for it. One guy will get criticized because he's biting off more than he can chew. And the other guy will get criticized because he may be taking an easy match. And this came up a couple of times with me when I would like the one time I showed up after COVID had been around forever and we basically were shut right down. I came and got that belt behind me at a tournament in Alberta.
I still love that belt.
And Matt Mask was one of the most critical guys of me coming out here and taking an opportunity away from someone else. And my argument is I gave them the opportunity. They had a bigger opportunity with me going there than they would have beaten their next door neighbor for that belt.
Right.
So it depends on how your perception is and how you measure opportunity. Because we had a bit of a debate last time about what drives you to go to tournaments. And one of those things is like, if I have a circuit tournament for the Manitoba Arm Wrestling Association, it's in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I might show up and watch, right? But what is going to drive me to compete at that event? Not a lot. There'll be a couple of things. If there's an up-and-coming guy that has established himself well enough that he needs a real test, I love to give him that test.
Right.
Show him where he's at. The other thing is, let's say there's a special guest. Like when I went down and pulled in Morris against Kyle Rayner. He is an up-and-coming guy who is legit as a heavyweight. Or the odd time, you'll get someone come in from another country, another province, somewhere down in the States that's an elite guy, and I would show up and throw my hat in the ring.
Right.
But, I mean, maybe we need to let go of this whole, they shouldn't be pulling each other mentality, because at the end of it all, what matters the most in that match is both you guys agreed to arm wrestle.
Yeah.
And
that's the bottom line.
I thought that you were well in that match outside of the straps, because there is a point with Robbie, and the lane with Robbie is definitely easier if you stay out of the strap.
Yeah.
Because the strap seems to close up any gaps in strength that he might have.
Yep, it should. And like I said, once they tightened the strap, it felt like I couldn't budge anything, and I knew, okay, I'm gonna try something different. Maybe if you think I'm going to zig, I should zag just to throw him off. But in a strap, you pretty much control me anywhere I want to. Where out of straps, I was able to kind of climb, and still kind of crank down as I climb with my fingers. But as a smart wrestler, he kind of did this. And I was trying to do that, and I lost the control of the fingers, and I was so pissed. But that's just how it is.
And it's also the reason why Michael was so successful against him, is because that particular style that Michael used in the strap doesn't really matter if you got the strap on or not.
Right. And you learn from that. And like I said, going back to your point about, what drives you, my tournament, there was no cash prizes. It was a, benefit tournament for one. So let's get that out the way. But, I figured, Robbie Topi, well known, I think he's like ranked 7th or 8th nationally, left-handed in the supers. And his name alone came to our tournament, and he brought some killers too with him from Idaho. And it was like Oregon, Washington. I think we might have one from California, but for the most part, Oregon, Washington, Idaho. And I'm telling you, and Ward, Fox 8 Ball, Arm Sports, welcome to the show, by the way. Don't want to forget you guys. But the star-studded, if Topi came, then that's like, ooh, Robbie Topi's going to be there, knowing he was got to be the marquee guy on the card. And it's like, oh, I want to get a chance to see how strong this guy is. That's what drives people. If SB came to one of my, events here, and they're like, all right, SB's going to be here. Oh, sweet. And all of a sudden, now you got people calling, hey, man, SB's going to be, Oregon, blah, 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 texting people. And all of a sudden now you got maybe 20 more guys than you probably would have had you not made it known that you're going to be at this event. So that's how I feel,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's the right motivation to come to an event. If you just want to win a trophy, you don't show up where all the killers are showing up.
Right. And also why I picked Topi is because, and I'll use this analogy, like in college football, week 1, when all of a sudden you get Alabama, they're playing like, Creatine State or whatever, some wackadoo college. And, hey, we're going to pay you all this money. We'll pay you $500,000 for you to come to our stadium so we can blow the doors off you 40-0, but you get to use all that money to take back and put it towards your athletic department. I didn't want to sit there and just get some yahoo off the street and pull him and go, yeah, look what I did. I want to challenge myself, so, and I did that, and I don't feel bad about it. Hey, he beat me 3-0, convincingly, and more props to him, like I said. And I think nowadays people tend to David Marr 113. I think with social media can be tricky because it can be your best friend. That can also, be your worst enemy, meaning that, some people like to hide behind that. I'm only going to post all my wins. I get it. If you're making a highlight reel, you want to post your successful wins. Totally get that. But for me, I will post my losses. I have no problem with that. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that because if you do that, then people may think you're not as good, and that's just weird to me. I don't know your thoughts about that.
I echo those, but I need to jump into the chat for a sec here.
Please do.
How is the right feeling, Ryan? Been reading some chirping out of Ontario. I have been reading those as well, Scott, and we will definitely get to that. We need to talk about what's next. And Neil Pickup, afternoon lad, stuck in traffic listening to you in between calls. Thought I'd just say hello to two of the game's most solid blokes.
Have Mr. Pickup, how we're doing?
Stay strong, be stoic.
Yes, I'm glad you can we can entertain you while you're stuck in traffic.
Yeah. Anyway, what was your question?
Well, let's talk about, for example, you got nationals coming up, yes?
Yeah.
And how do you feel prep wise and all that kind of stuff?
Well, as Scott was pointing out, there's been some chirping. Yeah. Curtis Cameron, Pork Chop, he's been talking about how he's bringing home the national title.
Okay.
Now, he's pulling supers. I believe the only reason he's pulling supers is because he wants to beat me. Now, is he being disrespectful about his chirping and stuff? Not that I've seen. I mean, his teammates probably are a little bit because he's with Evan and BLM and those guys.
Oh, enough said.
Yeah. Enough said. Which, did you happen to see that, we were giving BLM a hard time? Well, he came out and made another statement.
What did he say?
He came out and it wasn't the ref's fault now. It was the fact that he got drunk for a few days before the event. And he started with alcohol. Now, I give him props for, disclosing that to us. But at the end of the day, he still hasn't said Chance was better than me that day.
Hold on for a second. What's up, Cody Bird? How you doing? My man's in the house. So now he's saying that he was drunk a couple days prior.
Something like that. He was doing a lot of drinking leading up to the event, and he struggles with alcohol. So, props for saying that. Whatever, it's okay, but I mean, you still aren't giving Chance any credit for beating him. Like, I think you could probably take BLM at his best form with his best preparation, and Chance still would have won the match.
Here's my problem with that statement, and this is not a personal attack on BLM, but I'm gonna say this: if you have a match just as important, as Chance Shaw, that's a big deal. And Chance is coming to your neck of the woods to pull you and compete with you. I gotta be in my tip-top shape to be able to do that. That's probably the most disrespectful thing you can do to your opponent. Like if I came in hammered right before Topi came in, for me, that's disrespectful to my opponent.
Yep.
Because now I'm not at my best. Because that way, if I do lose, I can use that like, hey, I got hungover as a crutch. Now, if you're still hungover after a couple of days, then there's a serious problem with that. Now, I don't want to get, I don't know if you got demons or whatever, but yeah. I just think that's disrespectful to you, to your promoter, to your opponent. If that's the case, if you're going to use that as an excuse why you lost, no, I don't think it would have mattered anyway. I mean, whether you want to sit there and do all the finger stuff and all the gestures or whatever, and it just seemed like when he gripped up with Chance, he knew that there was no way. I don't know if Chance clamped up on him. He knew there was no way to get around that unless he does this razzmatazz, all that kind of garbage. But I think that's disrespectful. And like I said, not a personal attack, but, what's that old saying go? Stay in your lane.
Yeah. And then you have, these guys talking shit over there. And David Marr says he's listening to Beerman's podcast, and Beerman thinks pork chop is above me in Canada, rankings right and left. Those guys out there don't know what they don't know. And that's just the thing. They come out here, and how did they finish in that event, that tournament that followed? I think Len Houghton smashed BLM and Evan. And Len Houghton's not even ranked, top 5 in North America left-handed. Like, he should be in there somewhere.
So do you think it's
there's a lot of guys in Western Canada that they have no respect for, and the fact that they train with Devon sometimes doesn't make them Devon. And a lot of truth will be told. We don't have to wait that long for it to happen either, because I've decided I'm not going to pull the Masters with the left. I'm going to bring in my best left hand to the Open on the main day of Nationals, and we'll see if pork chop has anything for it. If he does, it'll prove that he's where he thinks he is. Do I think he's there? No, not even close. But we'll find out. As far as the right hand goes, though, I don't know. I don't know where it's at. If I pull anything, it might be the Masters right hand. But we'll see. I mean, if it feels amazing in the next 2 weeks at practice, it would take a small miracle for that to happen, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, like I said, and the thing is, though, is there any way that's going to be live feed? That's the thing these days, right? So,
I'm going to try to do it. I mean, I'll set up something there and try to do it. The quality might be the shits, but I'll have a VIP table at the front, and they'll try to just have a tripod set up and at least get some of the matches on a live feed somewhere. But I don't know. Scott's filming it, I think. Right. So hopefully he can do something with a live stream.
So here's a question as far as you and pork chop go. And I want to ask this question, but then I might answer my own question too. Why not a one-on-one match? But then again, it's like, okay, if it happens on the bigger stage like Nationals, then I guess that's sweet. Although it would be like a one match, maybe two, but depending on how the brackets line up. But why wouldn't that be a one-on-one match?
If I want to be completely honest with you, Jody, who has pork chop ever beat that would afford him a super match with anybody?
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay, well, that's the issue. No, I don't think any promoter out there is clamoring for it. I mean, if somebody like Devon says pork chop's amazing, he'll beat Espy, well, then probably 5 promoters will say they want to make it happen.
Right.
but no one has come to me and said, hey, do you want to show up on this date and pull him? Actually, that's not true. One guy did the same weekend that I was pulling Corey West. It was either the same weekend or within a week of it.
Neil Pickup, if you're still in a traffic jam out there and, would it be feasible to get one of these guys on Arm Wars? Would it be feasible to get a Pork Chop and Ryan Espy? Would it be feasible to get Beer Man or Ryan Espy? Or, maybe BLM can go out there, I might think of somebody who can probably challenge one of those, whatever, but it's just, to be out of your comfort zone, because it seems like those guys in that little area that they have over there, like you don't know what they don't know or whatever, what you have said. I guess if you venture out, and I always say this thing in the States, everybody wants to be that big fish in a small pond until you venture out. Then you really know where you really stand. And I've always told some of the guys here in Oregon, I'm like going, yeah, you're the man in Oregon, which is good to a certain degree. But if you want to be that good and you want to be mentioned with some of you got to venture out, not just stay in that one, not in your backyard and go, yeah, well, I'm going to plant my flag here and I am what I am. Fine. Everyone does that in their own backyard. Venture out and see what goes on, because you might run into some studs that you don't know who they are and what they are, because they may not be a household name and they might sit there and, give you a run for your money, if not beat you.
Yeah. But I mean, I have no problem with the way that Pork Chop's, having confidence and coming in there coming in as strong as he can and all that stuff. And, somebody said a little while ago that maybe the Corey West match lit a bit of a fire under my ass, and I think it did. And, I think in Nationals, you're going to see that. And, man, sorry if in advance, you guys.
I'm glad you got that. You know what, Ron? I'm glad, because in this sport, because this is not a sport where everyone's going to go undefeated. You will take a loss. Sometimes your losing streak may be longer than normal, or maybe outweigh your win streak, whatever. But yes, certain matches will light a fire. And like you just said, hey, Corey beat me. You know what? That bugs me. Now I got to go back to the drawing board, back to the blueprints, because now my main focus is Canadian Nationals. And I'll be damned if everybody's going to walk through me. Whatever happened versus Corey West is not going to happen this time at Nationals. So, yes, that's the mind frame you need to have. Just like myself, I just went to my own tournament, my own foundation tournament, and got whacked 3-0. Does it bother me? Yes and no. It doesn't really bother me, because Robbie's a good friend of mine. I respect the guy. But I still got my ass kicked, So I need to go back and find some holes and go, hey, let me figure out what this thing is, so that way I can get back on the horse again, dust myself off, and just keep rolling. That's how competitors do. You know what I mean?
Neil Pickup came back from your question here. He says, Ryan Espy will definitely be welcome back in Arm Wars anytime he wants. Love me some Manitoba Mastiff. Curtis looks very powerful and easy to match, although technically one-dimensional.
And there you go. If he was a jack of all trades, that'd be awesome, because now, and people got to realize with Arm Wars, and I've never done Arm Wars before, so I got to be careful how I explain myself. I've watched it a lot, even the old school ones. But for me, if you're a one-trick pony, it's probably not going to work for you, because if you throw somebody your fastball, and I always think you have to have a mindset of a pitcher in baseball. And you know what? And like I said, this may not make sense, but I want your opinion, Ryan, and everybody in the chat. You have to be a pitcher in baseball for a super match. Why I say that? If you throw your fastball and someone hits out of the park, you better have a changeup. You better have a slider, curveball, because if you don't, they're going to go yard every single time you throw a pitch. Just like arm wrestling. If I give somebody my fastball and they stop it or they pin me, I better come back with something else, or it's going to be a long day in a quick way. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, man.
And you've been there before, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's trying to sum up what you said there. All these baseball analogies are a little foreign to me, but
sorry.
But coming back, I mean, it's what you do next that counts the most.
Right.
I mean, if you just go out and you get your ass kicked and you fade into oblivion, no one's going to remember that.
No, and like I said, I'm perfectly, I mean, besides being sore, I'm perfectly okay today. It's just like, hey, I reviewed that match over, over and over again. And I'm like going, okay, yeah, I probably should have done that, but I'll do this. So, hey, read that, Mr. SP. What does that say up there?
Offer to Evan is on the table. I'm a huge fan of Evan Burgoyne, but the ball is sat firmly in his court. And right now, I'm not sure if he really wants it. Interesting.
There you go.
That's interesting. I mean, why wouldn't you want a shot in Arm Wars? It's a different show.
You and I are wrestling fans. We grew up watching wrestling. In my opinion, and you may agree or disagree, but Arm Wars is like going to WrestleMania. Is it not?
I'm trying to think if there's another event that would be like the WrestleMania event. And
Starcade,
SummerSlam. Yeah, no, I think you're correct. It's that big stage. It's the big highlight. It's the big moment. And man, the only thing that could compare maybe is, I mean, if you've been to a WAF Worlds when WAF was at full strength, that's an impressive thing to take in.
Right. And right now it's not. That's why I kind of brought up Arm Wars. It's kind of taking its place. And granted, yes, King of the Table is doing awesome things. East vs. West doing awesome things. But the pinnacle, and everyone, if you're a WWE or F fan like Ryan and myself, you know the term, that WrestleMania moment. Okay? So we can go ahead and put this. Neil Pickup, if you're watching, everybody wants that Arm Wars moment. What hashtag Arm Wars moment, because once you get on there, from what I've heard, that everybody wants to go back.
Yeah.
They always want to go back. I can't wait to go back there. So, that's why they got that Arm Wars Savage search. Once you go, you can never like, hey, I want to go back there. So, and that's an awesome thing to do. So
this is an interesting point.
Survivor Series.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, you have to survive, because we're talking 6 rounds. If you've blown your gasket in round 1, guess what? You still got, 5 more to go.
Yeah. And that quite literally happened. Like I ripped up everything right off the bat. Still wanted to go, but I mean, what can you do?
There it is. Read that one, Mr. Espy, from Neil Pickup.
All right. BLM is a fantastic arm wrestler, but I feel like his focus might be a little off right now. He's a little unsettled in the setups and looks a little nervous, trying too hard to win before the go. And I agree with that. And that is someone he is emulating, although poorly. So careful who you choose to try to base your style on. Because if you can't do, there are some things that people can do that others can't. And Devin and Travis are 2 perfect examples of that. They can look so smooth when they are trying to, in the setup and getting whatever little advantage they might be able to get. And
I like that.
It's part of the match.
Timmy Turner says Neil might as well jump on the show. I would love that.
Neil is in traffic, he says. So,
well,
the chance of that happening, but I'm sure Neil would love to join us at some point. But
yeah. Well, to your comment, always imitated, never duplicated, right? And what you need to realize is that not everybody can be Devin Larratt, John Brzenk, Travis. List goes on and on, right? Because this is why this sport is so great, right? I can be John Brzenk, be the best of all time, but never use weights or weight training as the pinnacle of his training. He doesn't do that. Whereas guys like Todd Zilla and Michael Todd on the opposite end of the spectrum. Devin Larratt hasn't been known to sit there and just, deadlift 600, bench press 400. He's never been that guy,
And it's a weird thing that arm wrestling has so many different paths to success, because there's a lot of us that have taken such a weird, different route, completely different styles of training, and achieve similar results.
Yeah. I mean, do I have weights? Yeah, I weight train, probably not as much as, your common heavyweight, but I got some other training methods I use that's worked real well for me. But, when I run into a wall like Robbie Topi, then I got to reevaluate everything. But again, Robbie outweighed me by 30 pounds, and that's the difference between a super heavyweight and a heavyweight, 30 pounds. And, if you take a 30-pound dumbbell, yeah, whatever, but you put that on a body and all that kind of stuff, and it makes a big difference. And I know that I'm not, in his weight class, but I had to test myself and see, what happens. But, maybe a matchup with somebody else of who's about 265, maybe it might be a little closer. Who knows? But I know that particular match for me, even though I want to try it, it was one-sided. But it's all right, though. I'm okay with that,
I was going to let the cat out of the bag on a couple matches. I'm not sure if I can yet, though.
Well, we don't.
But let's talk about the rest of your event. You had other super matches. Let's touch on those.
So we had Kenny Ferguson against Aaron Yearsley, the Macho Man.
Yeah.
And Kenny Ferguson was the guy I competed against at my tournament last year. And it was interesting to me because I beat Kenny Ferguson at my LLD event. Sorry, the 500 kind of caught me off guard. And I beat Aaron Yearsley at a different event last year in the super match. So you got two guys going at it, and I'm the guy kind of going, I know how both these guys pull by experience. And, Aaron's leveled up. Kenny's been, busting strong because he trained me. So I thought it might have been a little closer than it needed to be, but it wasn't. And Aaron walked away 3-0. And maybe down the road they'll have to redo that match. But Aaron looked very dominant. A little, adrenaline dump he had, but it'll be all right. My teammate Ryan Lance, that was probably the most competitive match of all the super matches. He took on Joe Meek, who just recently beat Ron Bath at the Nevada Hawthorne tournament a few weeks ago. So I was looking forward to that match. And it was weird because I was going to be in this corner, but they ran the super matches like one table, it was me and Robbie. Then after that, to give us our rest, they ran the other Joe Meek, Ryan Lance match. So I didn't really have a chance to kind of, hey, do this and do that. It was kind of weird, but Ryan ended up winning that one 3-2. Like I said, out of all four super matches, that was the most competitive match. But the impromptu match I had, the one that kicked everything off, was me and Topi's teammate, John Laverne. And funny how that whole thing worked out. We're doing early weigh-ins on Friday night. We're getting ready to shut down shop. Topi, his family, and the crew comes in from Idaho. They had some killers, by the way. They came in and they registered. Our wives had their own separate conversation going on, and me and Robbie just kind of shooting the breeze and stuff. And he says, "Hey, so you're going to pull the tournament?" And I was like, "Well, no, I'm going to ref." Just after our match, I'm a ref. He goes, "You're not going to pull?" I'm like, "Well, no." He goes, "Well, I brought my buddy here who wanted to pull you. He never pulled you, heard about you. He wanted to see, how he feels against you." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Well, how about a super match with him?" And I'm like, "Dude, I mean, we're talking, we got plaques made for the winners for the super match. I'm like, "There's no plaque made." He goes, "Don't worry about that." I'm like, "Okay, well, who is he?" "Oh, he's right over here." And I'm looking, I'm like going, John's about 6'2", maybe, 6'3" possibly. And I'm like, that's a big dude, and shook his hand. "Hey, how's it going?" And you know how sometimes you shake someone's hand, you kind of go, "Oh, okay." So I shook his hand. I'm thinking, hey, he kind of it seemed like he downplayed a lot. "Oh, man, we'll see what we can do, and hey, I'm 61 years old and be careful with me." And I remember the last time someone told me that, and I got sucked into it, that somebody blasted me off the table. So I'm thinking, I'll never do that again, where someone, "Oh, take it easy, I'm kind of sore." They'll just whack me. So I was kind of, like, okay, how's this going to work out? Cool. Fast forward. Hey, we're first up, right? Saturday, the event kicks off. We shake hands, we go grip up, and his hand is like granite, like his wrist. I'm like, are you serious? But I got torque on my pronation too. I think if you watch the video, which is posted on my YouTube, everybody, I think we had maybe 3 starts before the first pin occurred, actually. So already, you know, we're like drained out, you know. Luckily I was able to beat him 3-0, but it seemed like we pulled 7 or 8 times.
Wow.
With all the elbow fouls and the slip and all that kind of stuff, or the double elbow foul, you know, then okay, offsetting, restart, then he'll elbow foul, then restart, then I elbow foul, restart. And it's like, wow. And luckily I was able to get him in the straps, you know. It was good though. But like I said, one of those situations where you don't want to just, oh, I never heard this guy before, I'll go ahead and smash him, because you just don't know. You just don't know. I take every match seriously.
And you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You want to switch gears for a sec?
Let's do.
Did you see this?
I didn't get a chance to get around to it yet, but I heard stuff about that. Okay, what did I miss?
You got to miss. You missed Ermi's kind of playing around with Kurdecha and Prudnik, looking pretty dominant. Now, I understand that it's practice, and there is not a better practice puller out there than Ermi's Gasparini. And
Exactly.
Pradeep was mentioning that we should not crown him the practice champ, but you know, does it mean something? It means something. I mean, it's base strength, powering up strength. Do I think that it would indicate that Hermes can beat Kurdecha now? Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Practice, you know, before I get to the practice, good morning, Carolyn Looms. Thank you very much. She's a sweetheart. Practice pulls, do they mean something? Yes and no. And when I say that is because they kind of do, because you kind of see what's going on, but don't take it as like, oh, I can beat that guy. Hell, Michael Todd and I practice pulled. You know, we had he was just, when he made his little cross-country trip last year, he rolled through Oregon, and Daniel Yorick's in the chat. He knows. We were all there. We're at Multnomah Falls parking lot. He had the RV and everything. And the thing was that, hey, you go ahead and hit. I'm going to just try to see if I can hold you. But we all know Michael's left is not his right by any means. So we gripped up right-handed. You know, we're kind of going at it. It was just going to be 2 pulls. Okay, the next person in line. Well, that kind of ended up into a impromptu super match. But it was fun. But, you know, out of 5 matches, Michael got me 3-2. But no way, shape, or form am I going to say, hey, I can hang with Michael Todd now because, you know, I hung him up at a practice. It's a practice, guys. I mean, practice people are a lot different than tournament people, because I tell you right now, I am the worst person to warm up with. I mean, I'll warm up with you, but when we go on the table and kind of just go back and forth, I don't go. I let them go. I'll see if I can try to hold you. If I can't, then I got to do something else. But come tournament time, I'm a total different person, 180. And I think people need to understand that, just in general, not just me, but in general.
Yeah. I find this to be an interesting question. Why did nobody really after pull at the PAL Vendetta? I assume Benjamin's talking about the one in Vegas. And arm wrestling might be the only sport in the world, I think, where you finish that sport and then you go do some more. Like, you don't see a bunch of professional football players play a football game and then go out in the parking lot and play a little bit more. Like, right. It's if you're pulling hard enough, you really don't want to pull an after pull. I personally did not want anything to do with an after pull when I was finished in Vegas. I get why people do it. It's fun, whatever. Makes for good stories, makes for good, training, makes for good experience. Maybe get some footage going and get Hermes Gasparini a rematch with Matt Mask. But otherwise, am I a fan of it? Yeah, it's kind of fun sometimes, but oftentimes I don't want to be anywhere near an arm wrestling table when I'm finished an event.
I like that comment that Neil said before I respond to your comment. He says, arm wrestling practice tip: trust nothing that you hear and only half of what you actually see. You know,
Miles
that's
Wilco used to say that to me all the time.
that's the truest thing out there. I mean, it really is. Now, we'll say this though: after a tournament, everyone's kind of at the same level because we all pull tournaments. But I think a lot of times you do that because what if you got, two guys who are really wanted to meet in the tournament, but for some reason, because of the way the brackets were set up, they never got a chance to. Then you go, hey, let's see what you got here. Or, I didn't get a chance to, maybe I got bounced out before I got a chance to pull you left. Let's see what we can do left hand. Man, this is what you do. You try to challenge yourself to see what's going on. I would love to pull Topi in the hook, but I was too busy cleaning up the venue. So I never got a chance to go on the practice table and say, hey, Robbie, let's just go inside and see where it goes. So, because I'm sure he's strong in the hook, but how often do you see Robbie Topi in a hook match? Not very often. So
Not very often.
I would love to see, maybe I might have had a better chance in the hook than I would in the top row. Who knows? And we'll never know that, but it is what it is. So yes, Neil, I like that comment, what you just said. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The fact is, it's basically just giving us something to talk about, something a little clickbaity, and lots of people are taking that footage and making their own videos about it. But it is what it is. If it didn't happen in a tournament, or an event, it doesn't really matter. There's so many intangibles. Like, I am never going to be as motivated to pull somebody on a practice table as I am in the middle of a tournament.
No, because no one's saying go.
A long time ago, Troy Eaton said to me, he goes, I will acknowledge that you are the man in Canada when you beat Mike Gould, if you beat him at the Nationals.
Didn't that happen already?
It did happen. But what he was saying was, you get a different version of him when the tournament is important to him. And there was none more important than the national championships.
When it counts.
Yes.
Hashtag when it counts.
Yeah.
Ryan, you know this. Everybody in the chat, y'all know this. How often do you pull something, after pull or a practice, and you're pulling somebody? I'm like, man, you feel strong. And in their brain, they go, oh, I think I have a chance to beat this guy. I've had that happen to me plenty of times in Oregon, and a guy, I'm like, damn, you're pretty strong there, dude. I'm like, man, I can't do anything with that because I'm relaxed. We're just trying to make sure no one gets hurt on the table, But then come tournament time, that same guy that was whacking you on the table, because I'm not even really trying to hit, I'm just trying to absorb what they have. And all of a sudden you go blast right through them. They're like going, well, what the hell, man? I mean, you had nothing for me out of practice. I'm like, exactly. In the practice, nobody's saying ready to go.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying ready to go. Because honestly, when you actually after pull, you're trying to gauge who's going first. 9 times out of 10, right? Unless someone says, hey, just go ahead and go. I'll see if I can catch you. You don't know who's going first. Are you going first? Are they going first? No one knows. That's why it's always there's too many variables in that. You know what I mean?
Even a small variable. So, like, I'll give you an example. I'll pull a practice.
All right.
If there's 10 guys at the practice, I'll go through those 10 guys over and over until somebody beats me. Sometimes I last a round, sometimes I last a couple of rounds, but eventually I'll get beat. And I am not hitting at all.
Right.
I go to an event in Winnipeg where they set up a table on a street corner and it's like $100 for anyone that can beat me, and I've got to stay at the table for an hour. Well, somebody's saying go, and I'm hitting. Nobody came close in that hour.
Yeah,
and it was twice as many guys, all decent arm wrestlers.
Thank you for the comment, Benjamin K. Phil Wood is in the house. Over the Top TV is in the house. You remember that time where Gary Goodrich went to like Japan or something like that?
Yeah, I heard that story many times. Lined up around the block. It was like 1,000 people or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just taking them out one by one. Well, someone's saying go, then you go.
Yeah.
It's just like drag racing, right? Y'all see them lights, right? It's red and it goes yellow, yellow, yellow. When it says green, you go. You don't sit there and stall and pause. You just go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Carolyn, that's a good point. It kind of killed the vibe of the after pull too when the incident happened between Alex and Tim.
Was
And
that the guy
that's
that tried to whack Tim? And
yeah. Tim took some offense to it.
so you were there in person. Take us back for a moment, because this is where some of these young guys, not all, but some of these young guys need to understand something. Like, when you got a guy, you don't go, especially since he just pulled, or maybe his left hand, in Tim's case, is not his great hand. You don't go sit there whacking on
Well,
him like that.
they were pulling right-handed, and
Was it right?
Tim said, "I am sore,
Okay.
but I'll mess around with you a little bit." So, I mean, the guy should have just kind of taken it easy and powered up with Tim and see if he had anything for him. But he does some crazy move where he like dives in and tries to chop into a press with his elbow all over off the front of the pad.
Ooh.
And it was definitely taking liberties, right? Against the guy, trying to get a pin on the guy that just said he's sore, he's injured, and he's just kind of, doing it because you asked him to. Would that pin have meant anything to anybody? Maybe. Somebody sees it out of context. That's why you don't know what happened. But Tim goes away from the table for a second and he's like, hang on a second. He goes back and, is ready to, snap someone's neck.
Right.
he's pissed. And that was when the after pulling kind of went south.
At that same event, didn't you and Cody, like after pull, married, all of a sudden like 10,000 cameras came out?
Yeah, I was extremely sore.
Right.
And Cody said to me, and Cody even made a video about this. He asked me just to power up, and I just kind of held him there.
Right.
And Cody pulled me over, and all of a sudden the second we put our elbows on the pad, I look around and there's 15 phones recording it. Like, holy shit. Like, this is not what that is, guys. And then the footage was all over the place. It even made it onto Artem and Travis talking about it.
And that's the thing, because it's like, like I said, so many variables, and it goes right to what Neil was saying earlier. You got to, was there any cameras filmed prior to that particular thing? Because no one gets that, but they get, you want to get two studs, two well-renowned world champions on the table. It's going to draw attentions, but don't take that as like, you don't have Leonard Harkless there ref in that match.
No.
Right? You don't have that going on. You don't have, Dave Hicks ref in that match. Come on, people. It's just, hey, I want to see how I feel. Well, I'm kind of sore, but I'll just see if I can hold you. And that's honestly for me, not that it's a secret for me, but that's how I usually gauge my strength. If I can hold somebody, if you go and I can hold you or stop you, then I kind of know where my strength level is. But I'm just absorbing the hit. I'm not, actually going because I want them to go, because, unless Michael Todd tells me, like he told everybody that day in August last year, hey, you go ahead and go. I'm going to see if I can catch you. That's how the rules work, everyone,
Yeah.
So Macho Man's in the house. Damn, sorry I'm late. Yes, Macho Man. We were just talking about your match with Kenny Ferguson and how I thought, it would have been a lot closer, but, it was kind of a one-sided affair. And hopefully you two will get together down the road and probably redo that match. So there you go. Yeah, so you kind of missed out on that. But, I sat there, told everybody on the show, you leveled up, you put in the work, kudos to you,
So we got a question here from Timmy Turner. What are your thoughts on Tim Bresnan's son, Corey Bresnan, in terms of potential and current ranking? That's a tough one to answer, man. I think Corey's probably top 20 in North America. He's got loads of potential. He's built pretty much the exact same as his dad. And, he's where Tim was in 2004.
Well, I mean, he has the pedigree. He's just like a second coming of Tim Bresnan.
Yeah.
Only the one thing he does that Tim doesn't do is that Corey can come with a flash press. Tim's never want to do that. So he's all outside and hard pronation outside, where Corey can do that too, but he also has a backup plan. And again, here we go. If what's make matches awesome is the fact that you got to have more weapons in your arsenal. So yes, Neil Pickup, once again, Totally correct. You can't be a one-trick pony and be on a event like an Arm Wars because it's not going to do you any good. Because it's all about matchups, right? Cool.
Well,
If you have multiple moves, maybe one of those moves or maybe a kryptonite to your opponent that they don't know yet, but you don't know unless you use it. That's all I'm saying. So
well,
yeah,
the problem, I mean, that's the problem with having one style, especially when it's such a particular style, like the way that Pork Chop pulls, where he kind of just chops in. If that doesn't work, what do you do next?
Well, I mean, we can go a step further. There's been some people out there who, are a one-trick pony, and guess what? Hey, Macho Man, thank you, sir. A one-trick pony, and guess what? We know Travis, he ain't gonna be in a hook for a lot of times, Dave Randall always came down with that chopping press, right? Cobra Rhodes, he was all hand control. Not oftentimes you see him in a hook. So there are certain individuals that can have one move and done very well at it. But I think now, back then I was okay. Now, 2022, with so much social media out there, as far as, different techniques and stuff, you kind of have to keep up with the Joneses because, the King's move wasn't a thing 15 years ago. That wasn't an actual move. It is now, but it wasn't like a primary move. And now, guess what? The strap is the actual technique now because some people know they're probably better in the strap than they are out of it. So that's why they was like, you know what? My whole plan is to focus on slipping and then just start training in the strap over and over again because Dallas Langston, perfect example. He's a lot better in the strap than he is out of the strap. He showed that at Arm Wars. If you can clamp on him and get him in here, he can't slip out. He might be vulnerable. Yeah, I'm just saying the facts, folks. I'm not starting anything. I'm just saying the facts. Go look at the video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Robbie's kind of an example of that too.
Mm-hmm.
In the strap, way better.
Yeah. I found out the hard way. It is what it is. Hey, I bow down to him after the match. Great guy. I got to go back to the drawing board. It's like, okay, now what do I have to do to make sure my next match or tournament, I'm ready to roll. And that's what it's going to be. That's just the way it is. So there you have it.
All right, my man. It's been almost an hour here. We should probably put a bow on this one and move on.
Yes, sir. I would agree.
All right. Well, what's on next week? Before we go, new channel member and a super chat, $5. In my opinion, it takes multiple moves to be good.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And Aaron, because I know him on a personal level, he's actually incorporated a second move along with his go-to move. So it's going to make him even that much more dangerous, know? So again, folks, it helps to, train other stuff. We all know your go-to move. Yeah, I'll probably spend maybe 10 minutes on that at a practice, my go-to move. Then I'm on the other stuff because I want to perfect that. So that's just how my brain goes. So
right on. Well, Jody, it's been a slice. And for those of you that haven't, in the video description is a link to Jody's channel. Make sure you head over there and subscribe as well.
Yes, sir. Hey, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us on the show. As always, we'll see you when I see you. Scott McGinnis, keep doing your thing, man. I hope you do get a chance to go live with Nationals.
Yeah. Jody, we'll see you next week. And Scott, we'll see you in a couple of weeks in person.
Take care, everybody. Enjoy your Monday.